Let me ask you a question, and I want you to sit with it, not just brush past it. When was the last time a politician made you a promise and actually kept it? Take your time, I'll wait. Here's what's interesting. Most of you just thought of someone and then immediately thought of the reason they let you down, the excuse they gave, the way they spun it. And the crazy part? You probably voted for them again, or voted for someone just like them. That's not a weakness. That's not stupidity. That is one of the most deeply human things you can do. And today I want to explain exactly why it keeps happening and why the system is designed to make sure it never stops. Every 4 years, sometimes every 2, America fires up what I call the promise machine. You've seen it. Polished candidates, perfect hair, rehearsed sincerity. They walk onto a stage in a city they've probably never driven through, shake a few hands at a diner, eat a corn dog for the cameras, and then they look you dead in the eye and say, "I am fighting for you." And here's the thing, they mean it, at least in that moment. Or at least they mean it just enough for it to look real. Because in American politics, the line between conviction and performance has been so thoroughly blurred that even the politicians themselves can't find it anymore. But here's where it gets psychologically interesting. Political scientists call this cheap talk. Promises cost nothing to make. They're free. You can promise health care, promise jobs, promise to drain the swamp, promise to save democracy. And it costs you exactly $0 and zero political capital until the moment you actually try to deliver. So the incentive is always to overpromise, because the voter who hears a bold promise feels hope. And hope is the most powerful drug in politics. Now here's where most political commentators stop. They say, politicians lie, voters are naive, end of story. But that's lazy. And it misses the real engine driving this cycle. Let me introduce you to something called cognitive dissonance. When a voter chooses a candidate, they don't just choose a policy position, they choose an identity. They say, this person represents me, my values, my America. And when that candidate betrays them, the brain faces a choice. Option A, admit you were wrong, admit you were manipulated, re-examine your entire worldview. Option B, find a reason why it wasn't really a betrayal. Maybe the other side blocked it, maybe the media lied, maybe he's still better than the alternative. The human brain, your brain, my brain, everyone's brain will almost always choose option B because option A is painful. Option A threatens your sense of judgment, your sense of self. This isn't a Republican problem. This isn't a Democrat problem. This is a human brain problem. And political consultants on both sides of the aisle have known this for decades. They bank on it. Now I need you to understand something that might be uncomfortable. What you call betrayal, the system calls function. Think about it. A senator from Ohio campaigns on protecting manufacturing jobs. He wins. He gets to Washington. Within 18 months, he voted in favor of 3 trade deals that sent those exact jobs overseas. Betrayal, right? But here's what happened in between. He sat on a finance committee. He got invitations to dinners with people whose names you'll never see on the news. His campaign war chest started refilling from sources that had very specific requests. Not bribes, nothing so crude, just alignment of interests. This is what political scientists call elite capture. The moment a person enters the machine of governance, the gravitational pull of money, access, and institutional power begins to bend them, slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. The genius of this system is that it happens legally. It happens through PACs, through bundled donations, through the revolving door between government and lobbying firms. 40% of Congress members who leave office become lobbyists. 40%. They don't betray you because they're evil. They betray you because the architecture of American political power makes loyalty to voters structurally difficult and loyalty to donors structurally easy. And then there's the media. Oh, the media. Here's a question nobody asks enough. Why does the news spend 80% of its time on personality and 20% on policy? Because personality sells, drama sells, conflict sells. A senator quietly gutting an environmental protection bill? Boring. That same senator getting into a Twitter fight with a celebrity? Breaking news. The media doesn't just report on the spectacle of politics. The media is part of the spectacle. Cable news networks need your eyeballs glued for 24 hours a day. To do that, they need you emotionally activated, angry, scared, outraged, or triumphant. And when your brain is in that emotional state, you are the least capable of evaluating policy, logic, or evidence. So the cycle continues. Voters stay emotionally volatile. Politicians stay vague and theatrical. Media keeps the fire burning. And the actual machinery of governance, the committee votes, the regulatory rollbacks, the budget writers, happens completely off your radar. But what am I supposed to do? I hear this all the time. And it's a fair question, because here's the trap they've built for you. The American two-party system has perfected what I call the lesser evil auction. Every election cycle, you're not really voting for something. You're voting against something. You're so terrified of the other side winning that you'll accept almost any level of disappointment from your own candidate, as long as they're not that guy. This is not democracy functioning at its best. This is democracy functioning at its most manipulable. Because a voter who is voting out of fear is a voter who has already surrendered their leverage. Think about it from a purely logical standpoint. If a politician knows you will vote for them no matter what, because you're terrified of the alternative, what incentive do they have to earn your vote? None. Zero. Mathematically none. Your unconditional vote is worth nothing. Your conditional vote, your willingness to withhold it to primary a candidate to back a challenger, that is the only language power understands. Now, I'm not going to end this by telling you the system is hopeless, because it's not. But I am going to be brutally honest about what actually changes things. And it's not what cable news is selling you. Change in America has never come from the top down. Not once, not really. The New Deal came from labor movements that had already been fighting for decades. Civil rights came from communities who organized at the local level for years before Washington moved an inch. Every major shift in American policy has followed the same pattern. Pressure from below, built slowly, sustained persistently. Which means the answer to why voters keep choosing leaders who betray them is partly this. Because voters have been convinced that the only meaningful political act is pulling a lever every 4 years, and then going home. The people who understand power, they never go home. Here's the uncomfortable truth I want to leave you with. The leaders don't just betray voters. Voters betray themselves. Every time they outsource their power to one person, one election, one political savior. Democracy was never designed to be a spectator sport. It was designed to be a contact sport. And somewhere along the way, a lot of us, across the political spectrum, forgot that. You want leaders who don't betray you? Stop selecting for charisma. Start demanding specificity. Stop rewarding loyalty and start rewarding results. And most importantly, understand that your power does not begin and end at the ballot box. It begins in your community. It begins with information. It begins the moment you stop waiting for someone to save you. 40 years I've been watching this. And the one thing I can tell you with absolute certainty is this: the system is beatable, but only by people who understand it first. I hope today helped. If it did, you know what to do. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe if you want more of this, and I'll see you in the next one.